It's finally Friday. You guys better get in the chat. I see Kevin 11 is there. Hey, Kevin 11. So many other cool people. Come in. Kick your feet back. Sit a spell. A lot to talk about today. And it will begin in just one moment. Finally Friday is being brought to you this week by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. You can show your support and you can get access to a bunch of really cool stuff by pointing your browser to patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Well. Let me do this first. Let's go zoop. Oh man, I hate it when it does that. It's always doing that to me, right? It always flips over to the sometimes this thing says it's turned off, and other times it says it's turned on. Well, we're going to stop that. How you doing, everybody? It is Friday. Finally Friday. Fry-yay, perhaps? I think so. At least I'm excited. I hope you're excited about being here. Look at all the people that are saying hello and woot-woots and the jellos. Jello? Oh, the great NATO is all whacked out on the meds after his knee surgery. What was it, last week, Nate? I hope you're doing well. Got a lot to talk about this week. The New York Comic Con is going on. And I thought, what better way to talk about comic conventions than to invite in one Ashley Victoria Robinson. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so super glad that you are here. Of course, you are a regular on the Major Spoilers podcast, so we're always glad to have you there for that. But what else are you doing in your life? What's keeping you busy lately?
Oh, man. Science, Elements of Dark Energy just went into previews. Our Kickstarter is on its way to being fulfilled. And while I'm not in New York, we'll be at LA Comic-Con next weekend.
So you've got a couple of panels at the LA Comic-Con next weekend, not this weekend. This weekend is New York Comic-Con.
Yes.
But the LA Comic-Con, what are the panels that you're going to be doing at that convention?
So I am doing 3 panels, which is great. They're all in a row on the same day, which is less great. And I think probably speaks to how well organized LA Comic-Con was this year. So on Sunday, October 13th at 11 a.m., myself, Jason Inman, Sherrard Jackson, who writes and draws the Webtoons mega hit Darby, that's the awesome dinosaur comic, and then Jeffrey and Susan Bridges, who are another husband and wife writing team. They're writing Kill Switch over at Action Lab. On the Danger Zone side, we're all talking about how to write sci-fi fiction based on real science, and we're going to be talking about our 3 most recent projects and the research that we had to do in order to ground the worlds that they're in, because for science, specifically for our book, it is a middle grade book. There are educational, teachable moments baked in there. So when we decided that they were going to go to space, we had to do a lot of research on what it takes to go to space and what kind of elements and what kinds of power sources can do all of these crazy things. And that's a really different mindset from Jupiter Jet, for example, where if you follow us on Patreon or you've been checking out the updates, we're going to have an announcement about Jupiter Jet stuff again soon. That's all science fantasy. So we can have just green power sources and blue power sources. It's a really, really different thing that you get to do. At 1 p.m., we're doing a geek history lesson live with Celeste Klaus, who worked on New Girl, John Roca from Collider, Jay Washington from Screen Junkies, and we're debating Flash versus Arrow. Basically, which TV show we think is better. Spoilers, they're both going to come out on top because all of us watch all of the shows. That will be released in our podcast feed. I'm not sure when, but at some point. And then at 2 p.m., so like literally right after in the same room, we're going to be joined by Charlie Stickney, who does White Ash, to talk about indie comic secrets, how to run a successful Kickstarter, because between Jason and I think we have 6 fully funded crowdfunding campaigns.
That is so awesome. Hey, PGH Fur is now following us. Hey, thanks, PGH Fur. Thanks for following along right here this week. Welcome, welcome, welcome indeed. Hey, listen, why don't we get this out of the way really quick? If you would, look at this. Lie On 1988 is also following us right now. Hey, thanks so much for that. Real quick, if you are an Amazon Prime member, a lot of people have Amazon Prime. That's how you get Amazon Prime Video and all that good stuff. You automatically have some subscription dollars in Twitch. Twitch is owned by Amazon.
I didn't know that, Steven.
So all you have to do is go up to the top of this page and click on the subscribe button, and automatically doesn't come out of your pocket, doesn't come out of our pocket. For $5 goes right into the Major Spoilers account directly from Jeff Bezos as a thank you for you being a Prime member and subscribing. So I think that's pretty cool.
Also, I believe it's Forbes just put out their list of the 500 richest people in America, and Jeff Bezos is number 1. So take his money and give it to Major Spoilers.
Take all his money and give it to Major Spoilers.
Make the list.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. So I am super excited about all these panels that you have coming up at the LA Los Angeles Comic-Con. And it made me start to think, because this weekend is the New York Comic-Con, and, for the last, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it seems like we've been getting a lot of news from publishers. Here are some of the things we're going to be talking about, or here's a new project that we're going to talk about, and we're going to be talking about more of it at the convention. And it got me thinking this week that I think there might be a lot of people who are doing comic conventions wrong. And I know you might be sitting there at home saying, what? How could I be doing a comic convention wrong? And hear me out, Ashley, because maybe you disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine if you disagree. But I have a feeling that a lot of people go to conventions to go to these publisher panels, the DC panel, the Marvel panel, Cup of Joe, Boom Studios, the next big thing, whatever publisher panel that they have going on, because they want to be there to hear about the latest, greatest new projects that these companies are going to announce, or the next big event that is going to be announced. And I think if you're doing that, I think that is where you're doing a convention wrong. Because in my view, and Ashley, you've been to a lot more conventions recently, when you go to a publisher panel, it feels like they're just essentially telling you the press release that was already sent out to all of the blogosphere, THR, variety type sites, and you don't really gain any new insight to the new book announcement, even when you get to the question and answer session, because they're like, well, stick around, you're going to have to read the book and find out, coming out in January, blah, 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 blah. So I really get the sense that going to a publisher panel is maybe not the best use of your Comic-Con time.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely not. I have been to and on a number of publisher panels. And the interesting thing about publisher panels is they're boring.
Yeah, I think they are.
Super boring. And part of that, of course, is because they can only do what the marketing team says they can do. And I know a lot of great PR people. I know a lot of great
no,
marketing
there's some great
people,
ones. There are some great ones out there.
I want to say, generally speaking, the marketing people don't seem to understand that they don't want people on panels just to read the Previews magazine, because Previews and Previews World does an excellent job. And then sites like Major Spoilers, we get access to review copies and breakdowns and solicitations, even before Previews hits stands. So all that information is already out there. Where the value in a publisher panel comes is if they do have talent showing up and being able to give, because it's all about giving insight and giving extra content. And that's where I think smaller publishers actually do a better job. I've been to a lot of DC panels.
Yeah.
They're typically not exciting when it's just the lineup.
Well, so let me give you a really.
Whereas I did the Bedside Press panel, who's publishing Science, which is an indie publisher, and it was spotlighting all the creators and giving us a chance to talk about our books and then about how we brought them to the publisher. And that's where I think the value in there can be.
Right. So let me give you an example of how I think something is maybe a poor use of your panel time. Boom Studios, I love Boom Studios, don't get me wrong on this, and they are great. They're one of those publishers that 2 weeks before the convention, they're like, hey, here's all of our new things. This is going to be talked about at the next Comic-Con. Make sure you show up. And they announce all these things. And one of the things they had announced was a WWE or one of the wrestling comic books featuring the new WWE champ. I forget what his name is. And I was like, cool. And we put it up, and Matthew was kind of excited about it, and some other people were excited about it. And this was not an embargoed release, but it was up a week or two before the convention. And then during the Boom Studios panel, oh, here's a big surprise. Interrupting the panel is that WWE star coming in to do his little spiel. Yeah, except that it wasn't a surprise because everyone knew that the comic book was coming out and the person was involved with it. So it almost felt like, oh, we kind of already know this stuff. It's great you're bringing out this celebrity or this important person or this creator, but it kind of was like not breaking news, not something big and bold. And so when I talk about people doing comic conventions wrong, if you're just going for the press release reading, then you're, I think, wasting a lot of money.
I absolutely agree. I think I have a very skewed view on what people quote unquote should, or if you're asking me my opinion, what you should be investing your time, money in at a convention. And I will say right now, it is not the entry fee to San Diego or New York Comic Con. I think the cost of that is astronomical and ultimately not worth it. But I know people do that and they have different experiences, and some people love that, and that's perfect and wonderful. I'm happy for you. I do think the value in panels specifically, are discussion-based panels, and they're education-driven.
And that's why.
I think that can sound really dull because it's not like, if you come to any of my panels, I'm not going to tell you how to write a comic book. I'm not going to tell you how to make a podcast or anything like that. But me and then the panel of experts that I've curated are hopefully going to give you insight. You'll have a chance to interact with us directly. And if nothing else, maybe we'll say something that you think is funny. And those were the panels that when I was going as a fan, I found the most value. And I went to a panel at Long Beach Comic Con 6 years ago, and I asked Josh Mielkov how you get an agent. And so because of that,
during the panel,
because he was taking questions, and it was a spotlight panel on him and his career, and I think he's amazing. And he answered it, and it was a very helpful answer. And now he's become a personal mentor of mine. And I think that, and then like the face-to-face time with the creators that you admire, whether that's an actor, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, being able to have that interface is something that you don't have in hardly any other industry.
Right.
And I think the collector's market takes over that in a way that if you would go and talk to Tom King or Mitch Gerrits beyond just, hey, will you sign my book, you could learn something.
Man. And that's why I'm really excited about the panels that you are a part of at the Los Angeles Comic-Con, because these are things that I could go and get a wealth of information, a ton of information that, yes, there are some people that are sharing that information on Twitter. Some of the smaller publishers are sharing it on Twitter. But to really go in and say, well, I have a question about how do you do this? How do you schedule this so that you know that you're going to succeed in your Kickstarter? I can't find anyone who's really giving me a formula or an idea or things to watch for on how my Kickstarter is going to succeed. That's why I want to go to this panel. I want to go to panels. If I go to panels, I want to go to panels to learn something, to broaden my horizons about the industry or about a celebrity or about a topic or whatever it may be. And I'm not really as interested in going to hear DC's next big thing or, Image Comics in their 20 years from now, rundown of comics that they have coming out. But I do agree with you. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing.
Yeah, and so
I had nothing of value to add.
So even if you don't have a comic convention in your area that has a lot of panels, because even some smaller ones maybe have one or two panels, the other reason to go to a Comic-Con, and this is one of the number one reasons why I think people should go to comic conventions and do it, quote unquote, right, and that is to go and meet creators. If this is the medium that you love, if you are someone who is into a particular writer or a particular artist or a particular title or whatever that may be, there's a good chance that there's going to be a creator at the show that you may know or that you have a affinity for or that you love or whatever. Now is the perfect time to go to that convention and stand in line for 20 minutes just so you can shake a hand, say how much you appreciate their work, ask them some questions if there's time, and just have that personal exchange. And I think that a lot of people, I don't know. I see a lot of people running around at conventions, but I also see a lot of people, even in Artist Alley, who are just sitting there kind of bored because no one's coming up to their table. And it's like, oh my God, you are XYZ creator. Are you, wow, why is there no one here? Let me shake your hand. Oh my goodness, look how great you are. Blah, blah, blah. I've read your stuff forever. And I think those are things that people are missing out on. The number one thing people are missing out on when they go to a convention is finding those creators that they admire and having that interaction with them.
And I think you would be surprised at who will give you the time of day. And you'll be surprised too at who has a line and who doesn't have a line. The last time I did Phoenix, my all-time favorite artist, Tim Sale, was there, and he had no line, and I talked to him for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, he was absolutely and completely lovely, and that was an experience that I wouldn't have gotten if I was only there to hear DC's announcements. And besides the fact, when you're talking about publishers or you're talking about networks or you're talking about studios, they're not going to be making huge announcements at your local Comic-Con. You know, the big announcements are saved for ReedPop shows and Comic-Con international shows. And again, it's mostly San Diego, Comic-Con in New York. And that's just an unfortunate sort of way that industry has been structured, like conventions in particular. So there's nothing wrong with going to a publisher panel, but I don't know if it will bring you as much joy as you may be hoping for.
And so another good example, Planet Comic-Con, the one that you were last at, which was 2 years ago now or something like that.
Yeah.
Seems like just yesterday, but it was like literally 2 years ago.
I know.
You guys were, your table was right next to Jeff Moy, who is an artist who did Legion of Superheroes, my favorite runs of Legion of Superheroes. When I was there on, I guess it was Sunday when we had our panel, no one was coming up to him. So I spent a good 20 minutes or so just having his ear completely to talk about him, to talk to him about Legion of Superhero stuff and how much I loved it and looking at his new art stuff. And it was just like, wow, this is really cool. This is not something that you would get, just going to your local comic book shop. And I was like, well, I'm kind of glad I'm not going to any other panels except for the Geek History Lesson panel, because I can interact with creators. And so I think people are really missing out. And I guess I'm a little bit more pushing on this a little bit more because I'd always hoped that at some point in the future I would have been able to meet Stan Lee and shake his hand. He's not here anymore. And so now there is a something that I can put in the minor regret column of my life, is that I never took the time to go out of my way to go track down Stan Lee at a convention. I did meet him from afar at CES back when POW Entertainment had started, but he was like 20 people deep at the time, and I couldn't go up and shake his hand. But you're missing some of those moments when you don't get to go and meet a creator, and you never know when something horrible is going to happen to somebody. So you need to take advantage of that now. Second reason that I would say go to Comic-Con, and I know some people hate this, but go to see the cosplayers. Oh my gosh, people...
I have a very fine line about my relationship.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Here are people that are super creative. I mean, yes, they're not writing comic books. They're not illustrating comic books. They're not publishers, but they are, in some cases, super fans. Other times they're just like, oh, I love the design of that character or that property, and I'm going to emulate that and put on a costume, and I'm going to go around and show off the quality of my work or how much I enjoy cosplaying this character. And some people do a fantastic job. Some people come up with very super unique costumes that are a mishmash of multiple things. And I think that's a reason to go and just see that stuff. Now, interactions with cosplayers may not always be the best thing, Ashley, but I still think going and seeing their work is kind of what makes a convention good.
Totally. I have seen some amazing cosplayers. I've taken pictures with incredible cosplayers. I have a lot of some of my best friends are cosplayers. I did really appreciate the work. Where it really drives me insane is when you are holding up traffic. I don't like if someone is taking a picture of you and they are 12 feet away to try to get the whole fantasy. I will walk in front of the camera. I don't care. It is a walkway.
Yeah.
If if you are going to pose and it has to be the whole fantasy, there's always an outside space. There's always a lobby space that is fine for that. I have no patience for that, especially at a big con. And there's a dude in New York, and I don't know his name because I refuse to meet him because I hate him. He's always in a huge costume.
Yeah.
One year he was Apocalypse, and one year he was Lex Luthor, and one year he was Hulkbuster. He's always at least 4 feet wide if you get stuck behind him trying to go to Artist Alley. Like, he shouldn't be allowed inside. He's a fire hazard, and he creates traffic jams, and he knows that, but he goes there to seek that attention, which is, again, fine, and he does incredible work, but, you know, there are actual guests who are being paid at their tables, that most of the people are wanting to engage with. And if you are an impediment to that, you are creating a problem.
Sure.
And then I feel bad for the volunteers or the employees who are trying to manage their traffic jams. So I really love and appreciate cosplayers and what they do. And I find it to be very creative. And cosplay is definitely not consent, no matter what someone is wearing.
Right.
But you have to know your space, and you have to be aware, and those don't always go hand in hand, and that can also be really frustrating. But I think D23 had some of the coolest cosplay I've ever seen, and so I asked you if I could curate a list for the site, because it was so imaginative and so incredible.
Yeah.
So I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth.
No,
here,
I mean,
but I have
there's
such, like, extreme
there are pros and cons
cosplay.
to everything. Malone is asking in the chat, isn't there an area for cosplay photos, or am I thinking of just Japan and Europe? And some places I think do that, where they have a cosplay
corner.
not a corner, a corner, or what's the
Well, they call it cosplay corner, but
it's like an alley. Yeah. Where they can do that. A concourse. That's what I'm thinking. Cosplay concourse.
Yes.
And I think those are really great if that is specifically what you're going for. But I don't know. There's something weird about walking, and I know it's a crowded area, Ashley. But there's something weird and a little bizarre, but also kind of magical when you're walking down an aisle at the convention floor, and standing next to you is Batman walking next to you, and then you look over and there's Captain America walking along as well, and then up ahead is some anime Naruto person, and it's just that surrealness of, wow, look at all of this craziness that's going on around me, and I really, really dig that. So cosplay is creators number 1, cosplay number 2, number 3, Artist Alley.
Yes.
If you are not going to Artist Alley, again, just like meeting a creator, and some publishers and some booths will have specific creators, like not all you guys don't all the time have a booth, but like when you went to San Diego this last year, you went to a kind of a booth signing at someone else's booth. And that's one way to meet creators. Sometimes just bumping into them is another way. And a lot of times those might just be writers who are autographing stuff. In Artist Alley, this is your chance to meet your favorite artist. And if you're not going down the Artist Alley to look and see who's there, what they're offering up, sometimes they're offering up actual pages from published comic books that they are selling. Other times they might be doing sketches. Other times it might just be a nice moment to shake their hand or just flip through their portfolio of stuff. And a lot of artists will sell sketchbooks. That is just, every year they have a new sketchbook of art that they have done. It may not have published in comic books or whatever, but you get that facsimile of what the artist is creating, and you can take that home and admire it for a whole year. And you get to have a chance again to talk to artists as well. And you may find and you may discover some artists that you have never seen before. And so this is kind of like your forced trip to the museum when you walk down Artist Alley. You may not like everything you see, but you're guaranteed to see something that I bet you do like.
Definitely. And I also think budgeting can be really, really important when you go to a Comic-Con, because it's so easy to like get really, really out of hand. And then you're like, where did my $800
Oh man,
go?
that's just me when I buy comics, which I would put down. That's probably my number 5, right? Is I like going to conventions.
Steven, we get comps.
Well, no, hear me out. Please, DC, send me all the Flash run from 1965, please, because that's what I need right now.
Yeah.
So that's like the 5th reason to go to a Comic-Con. I know I skipped number 4, but the 5th reason to go to Comic-Con really is to go and do some back issue collecting, some diving, and I'm not talking about buying just a regular trade paperback of the most recent Heroes in Crisis or whatever. I'm not talking about that. But for me, I do like going and searching for Golden Age, Silver Age comics that I need to add to my collection. I've talked for years about how I have this super long run of The Flash that is now all the way back into original Barry Allen run territory. And there are times where I'm looking at a comic and I'm going, oh my gosh, should I spend $400 on that comic book? Or feed my kids. The comic book. The kids can go, hungry for one day. But I mean, if you are someone who is a true collector, if you're someone that's really looking for some of those classic comic books, then you need to go to a convention to do it, because that's where you're going to find a larger grouping. Now, it's not as big as it used to be, but that is where you're going to find a larger grouping of comic shops and collectors from around the region who are coming to one place to sell their wares. And it's going to save you a lot of time and hassle. My wife and I used to make this big circuit back before we had kids, where we would drive basically Topeka up into Kansas City and Missouri and back around to Lawrence and back to Topeka and visit every comic shop we could looking for back issues of stuff. We could go to Planet Comic Con and all those comic shops were going to be there, and we could get our shopping done easier and go through the back issues a lot easier that way. So go. My number 5, my final one would be go to get your back issues of comics, your collections.
Yeah, and if people aren't actively collecting something, I think that's one of the funnest things that you can do. And then sometimes DC will surprise you and start reprinting all of the 90s Robin, and you can stop. But there's a lot of really great apps. I really recommend picking a superhero or a storyline that you really, really like. And even if you know you're never gonna make it, Jason is collecting all of Action Comics, and I bet he won't make it.
He's collecting all of Action Comics?
He's trying.
All right, good. I mean, just like me, I'm trying to collect all Flash comics, so good luck to both of us.
He's got somewhere between 300 and 400. He doesn't have any of he hasn't dipped in any of the super expensive ones, but if people know Jason, I mean, he's a big Superman fan. So
hey,
it's admirable, but it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to do, and then you always have a reason to go through those back issue bins, and you'll be surprised what's in there, and then you'll be surprised sometimes how much they're charging for things.
I've found some real bargains. I have found some real bargains going into those bins, and the best time, honestly. The best time to try to go and get the best prices, providing it's not the most expensive comics, is Sunday, the final day of the show, because people don't want to haul that stuff back home, and so they'll give you like 5 for $1 or something like that, and you can get a really good price. We got a big old run when we were at San Diego back in 2005, 6, whatever it was. We got a big old run of Spider-Man stuff just because they didn't want to haul it home. So
yeah, sometimes it's the only reason to go, because if you are going for creators, they will all be hungover on Sunday. If you are going on Sunday, though, you will get the best deals, because none of us, whether it's little old me with my boxes of books or people with prints or shops or publishers, nobody wants to take any of that stuff home. So
yep, that's true.
That's the time to go and wheel and deal. That's really the time to go and do your shopping.
So
honestly.
So I skipped number 4 because we had mentioned buying comic books. Listeners, what would be your number 4? What would be a reason that you should go to a comic convention? You guys can shout those out there. Ashley, do you have another idea for a reason to go to a comic convention and do it quote unquote right?
I would say commissions. I love getting commissions. We collect Robin and Superman commissions, any version of Robin, any version of Superman interacting in some way, and you pick one artist that you know is going to be there. It's best to try to get there the first day of the convention, because sometimes people's lists will fill up. But now I have all these pieces that are unique to me. No one else in the world has them. I have some from creators who I'm friends with who don't normally do commissions. And those are really special. Like, it's great to get a print that you love, or it's great to get a blown up poster of a cover. But that's a very unique to convention experience. It can also be pricey. Yeah. So again, it's a thing that can be done, but I recommend budgeting.
Man, I would love to get an original Adam Hughes sketch, but oh my gosh, those are so expensive.
Oh yeah, like Ryan Otley is like an all-time great that I will never be able to afford.
Yep. So the Great Natos has been spending money on commissions and original artwork at Comic Cons. What is this? PGH Fur says it supports local businesses, but he generally goes to furry conventions. Malone says original artwork, obviously. 100% always like to support and shop local when I can. So there you go. If you can do those things, I think that's great. For me, my number 4 was going to be original art as well. If you can afford it and if you can get it, or even if you can get a quick sketch from somebody, do it. I mean, even if somebody is just doing who's the one that's always goofing and making silly Batman stuff on all the sketch covers?
Tom.
Is it Tom? Okay.
Tom draws horrible
I
stick figures.
think those are funny and wonderful. And if he's just going to have fun with it and do it for you, man, go and get that stuff, because that is something unique that you're never going to get anywhere else. So there you go. Five things that I think that you should be doing to make Comic-Con right. But bottom line is, if you enjoy going to a Comic-Con convention or a comic convention for whatever reason, and you're enjoying it and you're having fun, then I think you're doing it right.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great note to end on. Like, yeah, whatever brings you joy, whatever sparks joy, then you're doing the right thing.
There you go. An impromptu top 5 this week on Finally Friday. Ashley Victoria Robinson, please let everyone know where they can find you and remind them again about the panels coming up at the Los Angeles Comic Convention.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley V. Robinson. The V is very important. You can find me every week on the Major Spoilers podcast, except when I'm not. You can find my podcast, Geek History Lesson, in the Major Spoilers podcast feed. So just subscribe to that so you get all of our amazing shows. This week we did an episode on the history of the Joker. It's really crazy.
It's a good one.
And please pre-order Science on Amazon, Science Elements of Dark Energy, and check me out Sunday, October 13th at LA Comic-Con, doing the How to Write Sci-Fi Fiction Based on Real Science, Geek History Lesson Live, Flash vs. Arrow, and Indie Comic Secrets, How to Run a Successful Kickstarter. There will be graphics pinned to my socials and to the Geek History Lesson socials as well for all of
All
those.
right, Ashley, thank you. It's always wonderful to have you here, a dear viewer and dear listener. Thank you so much for being part of the Major Spoilers experience. We're going to be back next Friday for another Finally Friday just for you. In the meantime, don't forget that banner up there lists all the ways that you can contact us. And if this is your first time, thank you. I know a number of you have subscribed today for the first time. Thank you so much. If you are so inclined, you can subscribe to this channel, or better yet, head to patreon.com/Major Spoilers, where you can get access to a bunch of bonus content. Guess what? Coming back, is it next week? Flashback returns next week, only as a bonus episode, only for our patrons at patreon.com/Major Spoilers. And one more plug for Ashley Victoria Robinson. If you didn't remember what happened in season 5 of The Flash, head over to majorspoilers.com right now, because she's got your summary of The Flash. And I think we got the summary of Green Arrow coming up next week as well. All right. For everyone at the Major Spoilers Podcast Network, thank you so much. We will see you next time. Until then, be good, do good, and don't be a dick. Take care. Oh, man, look at all those awesome people. Robert Murdoch, Sean Brown, Thomas Perkins. You mean that guy that does the Ben 10 stuff? The Thomas Perkins? Holy cow. AJ Lewis. Oh, man, that thing that lives in my sock drawer continues to pop up on these credits. Thank you. Bruce Greenwood, C.W. Hills, Chris A. Chris A. what? Connor. Craig. David Hirsch, not to be confused with Alex Hirsch. It'd be great if Alex Hirsch was in these credits, right? Eric Johnson, Evan Lewis. What was that? iCrit. Maybe you can get your name added onto this list when you become a patron. Thanks for a great show, everybody. Some great comments today. You guys are all awesome. Killed is there. That's Jimmy, right? Or is that Christopher? I always forget which one is which. Michael, Michelle, Michaela. Oh, there you go, Chris. Peter, lots of Peters. Robert, Rowdy. All right, I've got to run. Got to take my kid to a dodgeball tournament. You guys, we'll see ya real soon.